Hello everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster3, and yeah, it's finally time for the Horrorthon video where I talk about all the horror movies that I watched during the month of October. And towards the end of the video, I am going to rank the 5 best movies I watched during the month as well. But keep in mind, those are going to be movies that I haven't watched before and first time watches basically. So, anyway, let's begin right away with the movies, shall we? The first movie I watched was a movie called The Pack from 1977, which, I mean, it's kind of self explanatory, really, because it's basically about these people that try to survive a dog attack, you could say, like these really crazy dogs in general. They have to like fight for survival, basically. I really enjoyed that film. Yeah. I'm not really sure if I should give you the rating for that, but I gave it a 7 out of 10, so I might as well give you the rating what I rated all of these movies as well. So, yeah. And then I watched a full moon production movie called Shrunken Heads from 1994. Um, and this one felt very strange because I don't really know if they were actually thinking of making a movie for like aimed more towards kids or whatever, or more so than adults. But then again, there's some really weird, crazy things going on in this one, so I don't really know what they were thinking. It's decent for what it is. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's one of the better like full moon productions in general, but yeah, it is what it is, and I ended up giving this a 6 out of 10. And before I continue, I'm just gonna say that as for all of these movies that I watched during the month of October, I tried to watch really like a large variety of films. I don't really necessarily only watch movies from the 90s or 70s or 80s. I try to watch from other eras as well and like from different countries and whatnot. So because it's always fun to like mix it up a little bit when you watch movies like that instead of just watching like only 80s movies or like only 90s movies that would just be way too repetitive after a while. So yeah. But speaking of the 80s, the next movie I watched was a movie called Soul Survivor from 1984. And this one I would definitely say is sort of like a predecessor to the Final Destination movies. I mean, the people that worked on the Final Destination movies have stated that they were not inspired by this movie, but I have my doubts about that because it's quite similar to that. It's basically about this lady that survives a plane crash where everyone else dies, and she has these really weird visions and whatnot, and sort of like a nightmarish type of vibe to it. I thought it was decent for what it was. I thought it kind of lacked in terms of pacing, like in the midsection of the movie, but other than that, it's decent for what it was. So I gave that one a 6 out of 10. And then we have a movie which I've always wanted to see. It's a movie by Schlock Maestro himself, Joe D'Amato, and it's the 1979 movie called Beyond the Darkness, which is also known as Brio Omega or something, I believe. This, I believe, was one of the video nasties in the UK back in the day, but the best way I can describe this one is sort of like it's weird to say, but it almost feels like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre mixed with Psycho, but you have some really weird like sleaze towards that one as well, like in shoved in the mix, you could say. But yeah, some really gross effects, and I think actually they used real like guts from I think it was like from a cow or something for some of these sequences, and that looked just really gross. Because at first I was like, how did I make these effects? Because they looked really good, really good. But yeah, if you do like blood and gore effects, if you like a more like violent version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre or the Psycho with a little bit of sleaze, you get Beyond the Darkness. And if that sounds like you would enjoy, give this one a watch definitely. So yeah, Beyond the Darkness, again, that one a 7 out of 10. Then we have a movie which really falls into the category of so bad it's good, and it is a movie by Don Dollar called The Galaxy Invader from 1985. Just a movie about these like rednecks out in the wild trying to capture this like crazy alien creature, whatever it was supposed to look like. It's very similar to his movie Night Beast. It almost feels like he made most of these movies were just really the same type of plot in general when this guy made his movies. Um, would I say it's as good as Night Beast? I mean, I think both of these movies are really entertaining for what they are. I mean, they're not really amazing movies, but they're really so fun to look at and so fun to have a laugh at. And Galaxy Invader, I really enjoyed, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I enjoyed it as a good movie, but it's a really funny, so bad it's good type of movie. So if you do like those type of movies, go check this one out. I gave Galaxy Invader a 6 out of 10. Let's see here, and then oh my god, then I watched a movie with one of my friends, Daniel. He's been on my channel for like in 2 videos, I believe, like years ago when we were talking about good and terrible movies or whatever. So for some weird reason, he decided to pick this one for us, and I mean, I didn't necessarily think this was gonna be like a horror movie, because it's sort of like a kids movie, but it has Halloween in the title. So I said, well, why not? And it's a movie called Halloween Heroes from 2021, and it's sort of like it's a children's movie which has Halloween vibe to it, kinda, and it has a really annoying Christian like vibe to it as well. It's like this whole Christianity thing going on in the film, which just felt really, really forced. The main bad guy is really annoying. It almost feels like he has trying to impersonate Danny DeVito's performance as the Penguin way too many times. And this is one of the very few times where I almost threw up, and not because I was like this, like disturbed by the movie or anything like that, but I mean, just by the fact of how much I despise this film. I think that's the very first time I watched a kids film where I just felt like, oh my god, this is just absolutely terrible, to the point that I almost about to throw up. But yeah, Halloween Heroes probably one of the worst movies I watched this whole year. To be fair, so yeah, 1 out of 10, garbage. Don't watch that movie. Then you can sort of say the same thing for the next movie as well. It's the movie called The Creature Below from 2016. You kind of assume this is going to be one of those like low budget made for TV CGI like crap fests movies type of deal, which it really isn't, because it almost feels like it would have benefited if they actually made it sort of like a so bad it's good type of made for TV CGI garbage, and just kind of like, haha, we're having fun with this. But this is played out as a serious film, and I don't understand why, because the CG is horrendous, the acting is atrocious. I didn't like any of the like locations or whatever. Like most of the movie takes place in like in the same location, or whatever. And yeah, I did not like this one bit. So yeah, The Creature Below from 2016, 3 out of 10. Then we have a modern day exploitation movie, you could say, or at least that's I think what it like tried to say on the front cover, I believe, on the DVD that I had. But it's the movie called Get My Gun from 2017. And I think I've come to the conclusion that I do prefer exploitation movies from the 60s, 70s, and 80s in general. After that, it just felt like really that whole genre was just dead at that point. This one, though, all of that aside, I think is still a decent for what it is. I mean, I think the character development could be a little bit better, and I think the pacing, even though it only runs for like 1 hour and a half, it has pacing problems definitely. I think it almost tries to be like a I spit in your grave type of deal, but it's not as effective, and it's not as gross, and it's not as well acted, I would say, either. Even though I wouldn't necessarily say like the I spit on grave had like amazing actor or anything like that, but it felt like that was a little bit more believable in this one. But all that aside, I still think this is decent for what it was. So yeah, Get My Gun 2017, a 6 out of 10. Then we have a movie which I've always wanted to watch because of the front cover, because the front cover had like these people like in cages or whatever, like in these like orange like jumpsuits that almost look like prisoners and whatever. And I believe this is like a Canadian production, and it's the movie called Territories from 2010. And this one was a huge disappointment. I didn't like any of the characters. Once again, I thought it was going to be like a really brutal and disgusting and like vile movie in general. But at this point, I think it seems like I'm not getting really like disturbed by anything at this point. But yeah, and there's like this whole side plot to the guy who's trying to figure out where they are, and like he's like this private detective, whatever, and that whole thing just goes nowhere, and it just seems like you waste all this time with this character, so you kind of like hope for him to find them, and then you're just like, whatever, without spoiling like anything like that. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that you have any like really great characters in this one whatsoever. Yeah, some questionable acting. I didn't really like the dialogue either, so yeah, it's an interesting premise, but it just felt like they just didn't really do anything with it. So yeah, it's unfortunate. So yeah, Territories I gave a 5 out of 10, very mediocre in general. And then, I mean, this comes as no surprise. Obviously, I try to watch this every October, and it's the original Fright Night. You already know my opinion about that one. I love that movie to death, and I can see it so many times. So there's no need for me to say anything else about this movie. So yeah. And then I watched a movie called Haunt. I believe this is known as Halloween Haunt as well, at least according to the front of my Blu-ray, because I have like a German Blu-ray release of this one. And I have to admit that I was lured into this because it had like a clown on the front cover. I was like, oh, it's gonna be cool because I really love the Terrifier movies in general. So I thought for myself, well, might be cool to watch another like one of those like evil clown movies. But yeah, I didn't really like the characters. I didn't really like the acting. I mean, the pacing once again is a little bit all over the place. The lighting and the audio was really weird and wonky as well for some weird reason. I don't really know why. But yeah, Haunt from 2019, a 6 out of 10, still okay for what it was. So yeah. And then I watched a movie called Tomb of Torture from 1963, which I believe is like a if this I think this is like an Italian production. Could be totally wrong about that, so I have to double check on that just to so I don't say anything else. Could be Spanish. No, it's an Italian production. So yeah, Tomb of Torture from 1963. Kind of fun. I mean, once again, it's sort of like a so bad it's good type of thing. Um, I don't really know what else to say about it, but it is what it is. The reason why I don't talk too much about every single title on this is because otherwise I'll be here for like 2 hours. So yeah, but yeah, Tomb of Torture, I quite enjoyed it for what it was. So 6 out of 10. And then we have a movie which I think I actually have like three different movies with this with this damn title, and it is the movie called The Black Cat from 1941. Um, Way more of a noir thriller than maybe like a straightforward horror movie in at this point, but not really nice mystery. I really like the acting. I really like the sets and the location and whatever. And there's some really fun humor in this one as well, which I didn't really expect at all. Especially not for like some of these movies like from the 40s. Sometimes they always really like played straightforward and nothing else. But yeah, I really enjoyed the acting in this one. So yeah, and the humor as well. So yeah, The Black Cat from 1941, a 7 out of 10. And then we have the movie called Bloodsuckers from Outer Space from 1984. This was released by Vinegar Syndrome, and before that, I believe it was Shriek Show that released it on DVD. Not if I'm not completely mistaken, but this is a low budget production, sort of like a I think it was made like in Texas somewhere, maybe like in Dallas. I don't really know where they shot it, but I think it's somewhere in the south of the US. And this is definitely one of those movies that are charming because of how low budget it is and some unintentionally funny like things going on in this film. And yeah, the title itself is self-explanatory. It's basically about these people that kind of like get. I'm not necessarily say they kind of like die for because of some sort of weird virus they get, and then they get resurrected and they turn into like space zombies or whatever you want to call them. I really wish they could have displayed more of the blood and gore effects in this one because you don't really see too much of that, but the few scenes you have with that looks really amazing, especially for like a low budget production. And I thought some of those effects were really fun to look at. Could have really wish we could have gotten more of that, but yeah, it's still a good film for what it was. So 6 out of 10. And then we have one of the better ones I watched this month, or like the month of October, that is, and it is the original Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Not necessarily if you can say like the original one, because this one was from 1931. By the way, Bloodsuckers from Outer Space was from 1984, just to make that clear. I'm not really sure if I said that, but anyway, the next movie I watched was the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1931, and this one was really great, and I feel like the makeup effects looks really amazing for this one. And I mean, we all know this story about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is basically about this doctor who creates this weird serum, and then he eventually becomes Mr. Hyde, and he just completely loses his mind. And I think the makeup effects looks really amazing for its time, and I feel like some of the effects in this one probably influenced movies such as The Invisible Man and the original Wolfman from 1941 with Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney Jr., I should say. It really has that feel to it, like that. It feels like this one really influenced those movies as well. But yeah, great acting, great pacing. I mean, even though it runs for like 1 hour and 40 minutes, it never feels boring. Great chemistry between the actors in general as well, I would say. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Great film. And then I watched a movie which I actually made a review of, so I'm not going to say too much about it. So I might as well give you the link down below in the description if you want to know more. I'm not sure why I did this, but yeah, down below in the description. Why did I do that? It's weird mannerisms I have, whatever. But anyway, The Deaths of Ian Stone was the next movie I watched, and that was from 2007. And I believe this was one of their last movies that Stan Winston worked on, or maybe he was like the producer or something, but one of the last projects he was involved with before he sadly passed away. But if you haven't seen my review for that video, I'm going to give you the link down in the description. You can check out that video for yourself if you're interested more in that. But yeah, I really enjoyed that one. And that's always a movie that I wanted to watch. So yeah, 8 out of 10. And then I decided to watch a movie. I have actually watched a remake of this, and the remake is one of the worst things that I've ever seen. And it's that movie directed by, which I would consider one to be one of the worst directors of all time. Mainly a movie, not a movie, but a guy called Brett Kelly. His movies are just atrocious. So that movie I'm referring to was the Attack of the Giant Leeches. That's just really terrible. So I decided to watch the original Attack of the Giant Leeches from 1959. And was it any better? Yeah, it was better, but it isn't very saying much because I thought it was boring, and it only runs for about 1 hour. But still, it was really boring. It was a slog to get through. I didn't like any of the actors. Some of the like practical effects looks really horrendous and really fun just because of how stupid they were. I mean, that was sort of like the comic relief for this film in general, but other than that, I mean, this is just a really forgettable mess in general. But I'd gladly rewatch this one any time of the day instead of watching that god awful Brett Kelly remake that was just terrible. But yeah, 4 out of 10 for Attack of the Giant Leeches, the original one from '59. And then we have a movie that I watched called We Are the Flesh from 2016. This is just a complete artsy BS type of film. It just feels like it tries to be art, like an art house film, and it just comes across as complete BS to me. I didn't like there's so much like nudity in the film, which I just didn't want to see at all. This is the case where I could say there's like difference between like nudity and whatever in movies. Like sometimes you can actually have like nudity that actually looks like beautiful, and then you have like the ugly nudity. It's weird to describe how I feel about that, but I think I've said that numerous of times before. For when you just have too much nudity in your movies, that is not even sexy anymore. That's just really annoying. You just really feel filthy after watching a movie like this. And yeah, this movie completely failed for me, and I just didn't really understand what they were thinking when they made this film. So yeah, 4 out of 10 for We Are the Flesh. Yeah, really forgettable. Yeah, I just don't want to watch anymore. So yeah. And then we watched a movie. We watched, like I'm some sort of like schizophrenic idiot. I watched the movie called Strangled from 2016. And this is quite fascinating because this is a Hungarian movie. And I have not seen too many Hungarian movies before. The only one that comes to mind is the movie called Taxidermia, which came out like in 2008 or 9 or so, I believe. Can be totally wrong about when it came out, but this one, Strangled, really reminded me a whole lot of the movie Citizen X from the 90s, the made-for-TV movie with Donald Sutherland, among others. I don't really remember the rest of the cast in that movie, but it's not about the same serial killer, but it has a very similar type of tone to it. So it's not too much focus on the whole, like, horror aspect of it. Maybe it's more like a detective story, you could say, but it has some like horror elements to it as well. So I would still consider this to be a horror movie, just like with Citizen X as well. And so if you do like Citizen X or like that type of vibe to your movie and you haven't seen Strangled, give this one a watch. I believe this is another one which was based on true events as well. So yeah, Strangled from 2016. I gave that one an 8 out of 10. And then I watched a movie called What's the Matter with Helen from 1971. And this movie I can only say, is decent for what it is. It has a nice atmosphere in general. It's a little bit slow from time to time. The best thing about the movie, I would say, is the acting. So you have Debbie Reynolds and Shelley Winters in this one. So you have some really great acting right there, like acting talent. I just wish that the storyline was a little bit better and the pacing was a little bit better as well. If you're ever planning on watching this movie, don't look this one up on IMDb or anywhere. because the front cover of this movie actually spoils the ending. That's how stupid that is. So yeah, if you ever want to watch this movie, don't look up the front cover of the movie. You could say so. But yeah, as for the film itself, it is good. It is good for what it is. It's a 6 out of 10. So yeah. And then I watched, this is actually from the same like 4 pack or whatever. So I decided to watch the rest of these that I had not seen yet. So the only one that I have seen previous in that box set was The Outing, which is also known as The Lamp, which is a really underrated and fun, cheesy type of 80s horror movie. But the next movie in that 4 pack that I watched was the movie called The Godsend from 1980. I believe this one is the one that I also had like a sort of like a remake with Robert De Niro, and that one was just terrible. Um, this one wasn't very good either. I mean, I didn't like the pacing. Most of the time, it was just really boring. I did not like the kid actors in this one bit either, and I didn't even like the adult actors either. So I mean, it's just there's not too much else to say about this one because I didn't really like any of the characters either. So yeah, The Godsend from 1980, a 4 out of 10, really forgettable. So then I decided to watch the last one in that 4 pack, and that was the movie called The Vagrant from 1992 with Bill Paxton. And this is such a hilarious, funny 90s horror comedy, which I feel more people should give a watch. Give a watch, yeah, whatever you want to call it. Like, more people should watch this film. So it's basically about Bill Paxton. He moves in this like new house or whatever, and he suspects that there's like this like hobo outside, or vagrant, if you could call him that. He is outside, and he constantly feel like this guy's like following him around, and no one believes him. And yeah, it has some really funny sequences to it, and great acting all around, and nice score as well, and nice practical like blood gore effects as well. This is way more of a comedy movie than a straightforward horror movie, but it still has horror aspects to it. And yeah, I really like the dark humor in this one in general. So yeah, The Vagrant from 1992, a 7 out of 10. And then I watched a movie called, I'm not sure if this is actually like the original title or not, but it has two different titles, so it kind of depends on where you live, I guess. But the original title is called Taste of Fear, but it is also known as Scream of Fear, and this is from 1961. This one has Susan Strasberg and Christopher Lee in it. Christopher Lee is not really like the main character or anything like that. He's sort of like a side character in general. Um, but this really has like a Hitchcock type of feel to it. Like really great suspense, really great like music, really great acting. Yeah, I kept guessing throughout this entire film what the ending was going to be about, and I couldn't even guess that. So it wasn't predictable at all. I love the mystery to it, and I love the horror aspects to it as well. So yeah, great mystery movie, or like horror mystery, you could say it is. So yeah, if you haven't seen this one, if you're a fan of like Christopher Lee or like old school like Hammer type of movies in general, go check this one out. Scream of Fear, also known as Taste of Fear from 1961, an 8 out of 10 for me. And then I watched a movie from the 70s, 1975, a movie called Satan's Children. And this one is kind of forgettable in all honesty. It almost opens up like a weird exploitation movie. It's about this poor kid, not kid, but so this young guy who lives with his sister and his father, I believe. And one night he's just kind of like going away from home, and then he like befriends this guy in this bar, and this guy just takes advantage of him and just calls his friends just to um, have fun with him, you could say. I don't really want to say anything else than that, but you probably get what I mean. And that scene is just really filthy, and you really feel disgusted after that. But then he gets put into this weird cult thing where you have this Satanist cult as well towards like the midsection of the film. That completely like changes its tone. Um, and it's a weird film. It seems a little bit all over the place for my taste, and it has some really disgusting things to it. And I mean, props for that. They dare to show that, but at the same time, it's not something that I would like say that I enjoyed watching. But yeah, it is what it is. It's kind of mediocre, to be honest. So yeah, it's a 5 out of 10. And then we have a movie called Slithis, also known as Spawn of the Slithis, from 1978. And this is kind of forgettable, to be fair. I mean, whenever the creature itself is on screen, that is just really, really hilarious. when the creature is not inside the movie, is kind of boring, to be fair. So that's just my take on this one. Um, this is from 1978. I'm not sure if I said that, but yeah, overall kind of forgettable in general. It is what it is. It's a 5 out of 10. And then I watched the movie. This is the part three actually of this series, and I would say this is the weakest one out of them all. To be fair, uh, keep in mind I haven't seen the latest one, which came out, was it like this year or last year? I'm not really sure when this movie came out, but anyway, this movie is the Toxic Avenger Part Three: The Lost Temptation of Toxie from 1989, and this one is just, I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they made this film. There's barely any like bloody gore effects, and it's splattered things that you usually see from Trauma. Uh, More attempts at comedy, and most of the comedy just didn't work at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like Toxic Avenger as a character, like this whole superhero thing. But yeah, part three, this one is definitely the weakest one that I've seen in this series. So yeah, um, 4 out of 10. And then we have some Paul Nashy stuff. The next movie I watched was the movie called The Night of the Werewolf from 1981, and this one was decent enough. I mean, this is sort of like him, like Paul Nash's character of Voldemort Daninsky, whatever his name is. He is like a werewolf, and he's facing off against Elizabeth Bathory, who is a vampire. And I think most people probably say that they really enjoyed his performance as this werewolf, but I think the actress who portrayed Elizabeth Bathory really stole the show in this one, and I think she was more interesting as a character than Voldemort Daninsky, to be fair. So, yeah, Night of the Werewolf, it's still good for what it is, and yeah, it's a 6 out of 10 for me. 1981, yeah. And then I watched some films with my friend Daniel, and the first movie we watched was a movie called, I love this title, it's just so stupid. Sorority Babes and the Slime Ball Bolorama from 1988. Um, you have all of these like scream queens, so you have like Linnea Quigley, and you have Brink Stevens, and you have Michelle Bauer, I believe, and so you have all these great scream queens in your movie, but the storyline itself is, it's okay for what it is, but once they get to the whole evil spirit or the evil, I think they're just calling him the imp or something. That creature and the voice actor for that guy, that creature was just really terrible. I hated that character. I just wanted them to just stomp on him. That's how much I despise that character in general, and that just really takes away from the author for most of the film. But this is a low budget movie production. It's sort of like a so bad it's good for most of the time in general. So, 6 out of 10. And then me and Daniel watched a movie called Fatal Delusion from 1995. The main reason why we watched this one was because this one had Tina Krause in it, but it's not really like the main character or anything like that. This one in general is just really, really boring. It's about this guy who's also like played by the same, not by the same guy, but the guy who plays the main villain in this film, or like this killer guy. He's also the director, so this almost comes across like a weird fetish project just for him. Most of the death scenes are just boring in general, and yeah, it's just very forgettable. It's a shot on video production as well, so that doesn't really help very much either. Yeah, 4 out of 10, so not very good. Then the last movie we watched for that evening was the movie called The Barn, which I really, really fell in love with, because this is sort of like a throwback 80s type of movie in general, but this came out in 2016. Um, yeah, I really liked the vibe to this one. It really felt like they captured that whole 80s vibe in general, especially when it comes to the music. There's some really great synth music in this one. Some of the characters are not really likable, but they're not really meant to be likable. So at that point, you're sort of like looking forward to them to meet their demise, or like to, yeah, so you can see them get killed off basically. But yeah, and you have some of these like really amazing like lore to these like uh, creatures, or like these like evil beings, which are like the scarecrow, the farmer, and someone else. Don't remember the exact title of all of these creatures, but yeah, really amazing film. I really enjoy this one. I believe there's also a part two, which I would love to get a hold of as well. This one also has Lydia Quigley as a small cameo, but still kind of fun. So yeah, The Barn, I gave this one an 8 out of 10. That's how much I enjoy this one. So yeah. And then I watched another Paul Nash movie, not directed by him, but he has him in the lead role, and it's a movie called Vengeance of the Zombies from 1973. Um, it's okay for what it is. I almost feel like I prefer this one over the other one, which I mentioned before, Night of the Werewolf. But um, yeah, Vengeance of the Zombies from 1973 is still good for what it is. It's a 6 out of 10. And then I watched two more movies with my buddy Daniel, and the first one we watched that evening was the movie called The Devil Hunter from 1980 by Yes Franco, and this one is just absolutely terrible. Most of the film is just people running around like a jungle area, and lots of like really weird humming noises from like some sort of like tribe guy or like spirit or yeah whatever that was supposed to be. Yeah, I mean even Jess Franco himself admitted like in an interview on the bonus features of this DVD that he didn't really want to make this movie. But he was kind of like forced into like making the movie because at that point the whole cannibal genre was just really popular, and some producers told him like, yeah, I get some money from me, you make this movie. And yes, Franco said like, yeah, whatever, and then they kind of like shoved him into this whole project. It's just a weird, very weird scenario right there. But yeah, I just really despise this movie altogether. So that was a 2 out of 10 for me. And then we watched a Jean Rollin film, and I expected this to be like the most sleaziest thing possible because that's usually the case when it comes to Jean Rollin, because he usually makes these really sleazy vampire movies in general. But this movie is called The Escapees. I'm not really sure how even you pronounce that, but it's from 1982, and surprisingly, this doesn't really have any like vampires in it. I mean, this is definitely more of a sad kind of like drama movie, more so than a horror movie. I don't really know what the whole horror aspect to this movie really was. So I think that kind of like tricked us a little bit when we watched this movie, because I expected this, especially me, I expected this to be like some really sleazy vampire movie, and it just turned out to be like a sort of like trying to be like a serious drama film, and yeah, it is kind of mediocre in all honesty, to be fair. So yeah, but anyway, the Escapees from 1982, a 5 out of 10. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but that's just the best I can do. And then we rewatched Fright Night Part 2, amazing sequel, not as good as the first one, but yeah, you already know my opinion about the Fright Night movies in general. So yeah, amazing film nonetheless. Then I watched a movie from Thailand, a movie called Sick Nurses from 2007. And this one was kind of forgettable in all honesty. I mean, just comes across like a weird, like almost like the Grudge rip-off type of film, because this is like at that point when all of these like ghost movies from Japan were really popular, and then they just like really tried to shove all of these movies out here, especially all the other countries from this region of or like in this area in Asia in general. But yeah, I thought it was kind of mediocre. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it was just, for me, it was just kind of mediocre, to be fair. So yeah, Sick Nurses from 2007, 5 out of 10. And then watched a movie called She Beast by director Michael Reeves, and this is from 1966. And I thought this was going to be a really entertaining movie in general, but I was so wrong about this one. The main reason why I actually wanted to watch this was because of Michael Reeves, because he directed one of my favorite Vincent Price movies of all time, mainly The Witchfinder General. That was, I think that was the last one he directed as well before he sadly passed away. But the She Beast is just really boring. I mean, there's some really hilarious these scenes going on in the first section of the video, or like not the video, but this first section of the movie. But yeah, it's just very forgettable. 3 out of 10. So yeah. And then I watched a movie called The Most Dangerous Game from 1932, and this one really blew my mind because it was an amazing, very well put together film, I would say, for its time. I really liked the like sets and whatever. Like it's basically, you could sort of say that this is like the original The Running Man, or like the original Battle Royale, or the original like Turkey Shoot. You could say, if you've seen any of those movies, basically these people that try to survive out in the wild while someone is like hunting them. Um, yeah, really amazing film for its time, and great acting all around. So a little bit too short, maybe it's only about like an hour long or so. But other than that, it's a really great film nonetheless. So yeah, 7 out of 10. And then I watched a movie by J.R. Bookwalter, and I would say J.R. Bookwalter is probably one of the best low budget like filmmakers in general, especially like in the 90s, because it seems like he has like a nice blend of making like low budget productions, making them really really entertaining with the very low budget he has to work with. But it's the movie called Kingdom of the Vampire from 1991. And for some weird reason, I don't really know why, but apparently I think it's like Bring Stevens on the front cover, and that is just completely misleading because she's not even in the film. Um, but yeah, low budget production is basically about this guy who lives with his mother, and he realizes he's a vampire, and he has to constantly get blood basically. And his mother kind of like tells him to go out and gets blood from people and like sort of like suck their blood or whatever. Uh, and then he befriends this girl who he kind of falls in love with. So there's like this weird dilemma right there, what he's really going to do, if he's going to be if he's gonna like do what mama tells him to do, or if he's gonna like fall in love with this girl or whatever. It's really interesting storyline in general, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I really enjoyed this one for what it was, so 6 out of 10. And then I watched a made-for-TV movie. Usually, when it comes to made-for-TV movies, especially like those that came out like in the early 2000s and later, they're usually not really good in all, really good at all. But it's the movie called Cabin by the Lake from the year 2000, and this one has Judd Nelson in it, and he is a screenwriter, I believe, who's like writing screenplays for movies in general, and people don't really know that he's actually a psychopath. And that's not really a big spoiler thing like that, because it's sort of like spoiled towards. I mean, it's not spoiled, but you know that from the get go that he's just really demented. So, yeah, it's an interesting premise for what it is, and I like his acting, and I like most of the like other characters as well. So 6 out of 10. So yeah, might actually check out the sequel to that one as well, because I've heard some decent things about the sequel as well. So yeah, and then we watched. Why do I say we? I watched this by myself. Damn. Then I watched the movie called Robber from 2010, and this is a really strange film. Yeah, it's a movie by a killer whale going around killing people, and that in itself is unique enough for me to give this a 6 out of 10. Uh, it's not amazing, it's not great. I mean, if like that, it's mainly because of the whole the premise in itself is what really like saves this film for me. So yeah, 6 out of 10. And then I watched a movie from the 80s, mid 80s. Some people would probably say, is this really a horror movie? But it has like more like an exploitation vibe to it. And I would definitely say like exploitation movies really like fits into the category of horror movies in general. So, and it's the movie from 1985 called The Tenement Game of Survival by Roberta Findlay, who's probably most famous for making like really like sleazy, like smut really. Um, I think I've seen two or three of her previous movies, like horror movies, and I didn't really like any of them, to be fair. But this one really, really surprised the hell out of me, because it has this really like gritty vibe to it. It's about people that lives in this like run-down apartment building, like this block or whatever, and they have to fight off against these criminals, or like this gang, and they get picked off one by one, and they try to survive by fighting back eventually. And this one is just really violent for what it is, and I believe this was, I'm not sure if it still is. I don't think it is, but I mean, at this point, I think when this came out, this was actually rated X, just for the violence alone. So it's not like any like sleaze production or anything like that, but it's just for the sake of the violence. That's why it was rated X. So I can only imagine like how crazy people were about this film back in the day. Like this was probably like really hard to come across in general. But yeah, I really enjoy this one because of how crazy and just insane it was, really. So yeah, 8 out of 10. And then I watched, this was the oldest film I watched, and it's the 1920 movie called The Golem, or Dare Golem, but depending on where you live. And I can totally see this is probably like the movie. I'm not really sure if this origin story was made or like written before the Frankenstein story, but it has a lot of similarities to it. And since it is from 1920, this is a silent film, but it has great music to it, and really great like makeup effects or whatever of this creature itself. And yeah, it's a really fascinating movie altogether. A 7 out of 10. So yeah, there you go. And then I watched a movie called Night of the Eagle from 1962, which I think this is known as something else. Just have to double check on this one. Um, what is it also known as? It's known as Burn Witch Burn is the other title. I actually prefer Burn Witch Burn. I think that's just a much better title than Night of the Eagle. Night of the Eagle kind of sounds a little bit generic to me, but This is basically about this guy who he is married and he suspects that his wife is actually a witch, and he suspects also that just because of his success is probably just based on the fact that she's a witch and she's like cast spells, and that's the reason why he's become so successful in the first place. So it's a nice, interesting storyline which you don't really see too much anymore. You don't really see much like witchcraft movies in general anymore, which I think is a little bit of a shame. Maybe I've just completely missed out on those movies, like later movies, but yeah, this one is good. 7 out of 10. This is from 1962. I'm not really sure if I said that. And then I watched the movie called I Walked with a Zombie from 1943. I'm just gonna say I gave this a 7 out of 10. Great atmosphere, great setting. Not necessarily your typical sort of like zombie type of movie. This is more like a voodoo based type of thing. So you don't really have the whole like Living Dead vibe to it yet. So like we could probably see in some of the later like George A. Romero movies, but yeah, really good nonetheless. And then I watched Todd Sheets' movie called Moonchild from 1994, and this is most definitely more of an action movie than a horror movie, even though it has like a werewolf in it for a very short amount of time. Low budget trash. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either. I don't really understand why some people say that Todd Sheets is like one of the worst directors of all time, because the 2 or 3 movies that I have seen by him have been really entertaining, like trashy movies in general. So yeah, Moonshell from 1994, a 5 out of 10. And then we have the movie that I've made a review of. So if you want to know more about that one, you can check out that other review of mine. And it's the movie called Hysteria from 2008. Movie from Singapore, I believe it was. Yeah, it was decent enough. It's a 6 out of 10. And then I watched a movie by William Castle, and this is from 1958, and the movie is called Macabre. And once again, I think Macabre is. I think I've like watched at least 2 or 3 movies, but that damn title as well. This one I thought was just really forgettable. I didn't really like it. I mean, usually when it comes to William Castle, he really great. He really creates great atmosphere in his movies for most of the time. But this one just felt flat for me in general, and just kind of mediocre in general. So yeah, 5 out of 10. If I don't speak too much about these movies, because I have lots of movies to go through that I've watched this month. So yeah. Next one was the movie called Escape Room from 2017. Was directed by a guy called Peter Dukes, and this one has Skeet Ulrich in it. And then you might ask yourself, why do you even mention all these names? And this because I think there was another movie called Escape Room which came out around the same time. But yeah, this is kind of mediocre in general. I didn't really care too much for it. It's a 5 out of 10. Then I watched the movie called The Body Snatcher from 1945, and this one was actually pretty good. So this was a 7 out of 10. I really have to speed up because I've been talking for almost like 45 minutes now. So yeah. The next movie was another rewatch, and it's the movie from the 80s called Neon Maniacs. Cheesy, stupid, fun. It has lots of really funny like music to it. The creatures themselves look really cool. I just kind of wish we got a little bit more backstory to those creatures in general. But yeah, it's a movie I've seen before, and it's still decent for what it is, and it's fun. It's a good fun movie. So 6 out of 10. And then we have a movie which I was just really, really disappointed on. I just despise this one. It's the movie called Ganja and Hess from 1973. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. This is another one of those artsy BS movies, which I usually call some of those that just try to be really, really artsy. Yeah, annoying, and there's just some really horrendous like talk about Jesus like through like most of the film, and yes, the score, like the soundtrack to this film is just horrendous. Almost made my eyes bleed. Eyes bleed? Yeah, both, maybe both eyes and ears to be fair. So, yeah, Ganjan has 3 out of 10, just terrible. Then I watched a movie called Scream Bloody Murder from 1973. And this almost like has a weird psycho and deranged type of vibe to it, like the movie Deranged from around the same era. And this one also reminded me a little bit of Three on a Meat Hook. Not necessarily because of the storyline, but more so because of the whole tone to the film. It has that type of vibe to it, like the gritty vibe to it. I know some people really despise this one, but I liked it because of the atmosphere and because of some of the gruesome things going on in this film. So 6 out of 10 is still good for what it is. And then I rewatched the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. You already know my opinion about that, a masterpiece in horror in general, so let's move on. Then I watched another made for TV movie. This one was from the 90s, and this one has C. Thomas Howell in it, and the movie is called Natural Selection from 1994. And this one is also known as Dark Reflection. I think Dark Reflection is a little bit better, but because it's basically about C. Thomas Howell playing these two different characters, and I'm not sure if they were supposed to be twins or not. I don't think they were supposed to be twins, but they look very much alike. Like, obviously, since it's the same actor that portrays these characters, but um, I feel like they were probably held back when it came to the blood and gore effects or like any of the violence, because this was a made-for-TV movie. And most of the time when it comes to made-for-TV movies, you can't really display too much on screen when it comes to that. So it's a little bit of a missed opportunity right there. So 5 out of 10, kind of mediocre. And then a movie I made a review of quite recently as well. The movie called 12-Hour Shift from 2020. Ah, damn, I really hated this film. I mean, hate is such a strong word, but that's just where I really thought about this movie altogether. If you haven't seen my review for it, you definitely know my whole opinion about this one, so I'm just going to move on right from that one. And then I watched a Japanese horror movie from 1969 called Horrors of Malformed Men by cult director or sleaze master, you could call him as well, Teruo Ishii, who mostly made those really sleazy movies from the late 60s in general. But I would say this is probably one of his best movies that I've seen, because most of his other movies are just pure sleaze and almost nothing else, especially not in terms of storyline or anything like that. This storyline is also a bit muddled, but it's still more fascinating and more interesting to look at. So, yeah, Horrors of Malformed Men from 1969. And then I watched a Swedish horror movie called Wither from 2012, and this one just really felt flat for me. It comes across like a complete, like almost like an Evil Dead rip-off type of film. Um, and there's some really great blood and gore effects to be seen right here, and it's quite interesting to see Johannes Brost in this film as well, because he's usually not in these type of movies at all. So I don't really understand how they got a hold of him to be in this movie altogether, but he was probably the best part about this film in terms of actors or whatever, because there's some acting in this one which is just really terrible. Um, and once you see all the blood and gore effects, you don't even care about it anymore, because the first half of the film is kind of boring, kind of like sluggish or whatever, and you don't really care about any of the characters in general. So, yeah, he just comes across like a sheep, like Evil Dead ripoff in general. So, yeah, 5 out of 10. And then I watched I believe this is like Tygon production, and it's a movie called The Beast in the Cellar from 1971. Um, this one was decent enough for what it was. I mean, not amazing, not the worst. 6 out of 10. That's all I'm going to say about that one. And then I watched a movie called The Incubus from 1981. And one of my friends told me that he just really despised this one, so I really went in with this one with really low expectations, because most of the time when we talk about movies, we kind of like have a very similar opinion about movies in general. So I was just really surprised by how much I enjoyed this one. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a great movie, but I really like the score and the atmosphere and the acting in this film altogether. So and the whole mystery towards the end as well. So yeah, 6 out of 10. The Incubus from 1981. And then I rewatched the very first Maniac Cop film from 1988. And yeah, I love this film. I've already said that so many times before. So yeah, I'm just going to move on from that. And then I watched the movie called Van Helsing from 2004. A movie I've never seen before, but this is very mainstream. This is directed by Steven Sommers, who made the Mummy movies and Deep Rising, and he also made that Jungle Book movie from the 90s, which seems to be impossible to get a hold of these days, which I would love to get a hold of, because I remember watching that as a kid and I just, yeah, can't find it anywhere. But yeah, Van Helsing, this is a weird film, because I totally understand what they were aiming for, but the problem is that some of the humor doesn't really work, and the whole balance between humor and serious type of. I mean, it seems like there's two films that they just shoved in together as one project, and that makes just didn't really work for me. Uh, and I would also say it's too long for its own good. It's like 2 hours and like 10 minutes or so, and yeah, it's too long for its own good. I do like the actors in the movie itself, but yeah, it is what it is. It's still stupid fun for what it is, I could say. So 6 out of 10. And I would also say the Achilles heel for that film is the CGI effects, which just haven't aged good at all. So yeah. Then we have a movie which I watched mainly because it almost feels like this could have been about my problems in general, but it's the movie called Bad Milo. Um, and the storyline is like a man learns that his unusual stomach pains are being caused by a demon living in his intestines. I've had problems with my intestines, so that it almost feels like this movie was made for me. Maybe that's the reason why I kind of enjoyed some of the things going on in this film. It's decent for what it is. I think most people will just say that this is just stupid, but it almost has like a weird gremlin vibe to it as well. But yeah, 6 out of 10. It's still good. And then me and a couple of friends watched a short movie called, not the movie. This is a short. It's only like 30 minutes long, but a movie by Hunter Hancock on YouTube. I don't really know. I'm not familiar with this guy's like projects or like his YouTube channel at all. But some of my friends told me, well, we should watch this since it's Halloween or whatever. And it's the movie called, or like the short movie called Meat Canyon. And I was just really mesmerized by the practical effects in this short. And if this guy makes these type of things on a regular basis, I mean, I would love to see him work in one of the bigger productions one day, like with the really serious like type of like body horror type of horror film like that or something like that. So that could be really cool. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. So 8 out of 10. And then the very last movie I watched, or like that we actually watched as a group, me and a couple of friends, was which I recommended to all of us, and it's the movie I usually watch during the time of the year, like in October, and it's the original Night of the Demons from 1988. Yeah, amazing film. I've seen it so many times I don't really need to say anything else. Now that was all of the movies that I watched during the month of October. Sorry if I'm just completely rambling on right here, but before I end this video, I'm gonna tell you about the 5 best movies I watched during this month as well. And obviously, I'm gonna exclude the ones that I've already seen before. So here we go. At number 5, we have Strangled right here, the Hungarian serial killer film. And I'm not gonna say too much about these because I already told you about these movies before. Number 4, The Barn, great 80s throwback movie. Number 3, we have Roberta Findlay's Tenement, Game of Survival, great exploitation 80s film. And number 2, we have Taste of Fear, also known as Scream of Fear, fantastic film. And then number 1, which was the best one I watched, if you don't count the ones that I've rewatched, obviously, was the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the 31 version. This release actually also comes with the 41 version, I believe, or 42. 41 version, sorry. So I'm really looking forward to see that one as well. But as of this month or whatever, like in the month of October, yeah, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was the best movie I watched. So yeah, anyway, hope you enjoy this video. I know I've been talking for almost like 1 hour right now. And yeah, I hope this was still somewhat interesting for you guys, and hope that you got some more like awesome horror movie recommendations from me. This is just my personal opinion, so if you do really despise some of these movies, that's just your opinion. And everyone has the right to their own opinions. So yeah, but anyway, hope you enjoy this video, and give it a like. You leave a comment or two. Have you seen any of these movies? Please let me know in the comment section. And if you would love to follow me on if you would like to follow me on YouTube, you could just subscribe to my channel to keep up with newer updates or like newer content and whatever going on in this channel. So anyway, hope you enjoy this video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.